Welcome! In the last video, I showed you how to set up an Amiga hard drive or memory card using WinUAE on Windows 10. I also covered installing Workbench. Now that we have a booting Amiga drive, let's put a few essentials on it. This video assumes you already have a working WinUAE configuration that boots off either a virtual hard drive or a real drive, like the one I demonstrated in the previous video. All software in this video are known to be either freeware, GPL licensed, or abandonware, and are freely available. For this demonstration, I visited aminet.net and downloaded directory Opus, LHA, and a utility simply called Installer. For those running OCS or ECS machines, be careful about which versions of these programs you get, as some are optimized for newer Amigas and may not work for you. Keep in mind that downloaded Amiga software comes in two formats: disk images like .adf and .dms, and just the loose files themselves, often archived in .lha and .zip. Disk images can be loaded using the floppy section on WinUAE. Loose files are best accessed with a virtual Amiga drive mapped to a folder on your PC. Knowing that, I would put all of your desired utilities in one folder on your hard drive. You can see some zip files and LHA archives. Any that I plan to use, I have already unarchived. Now is the easiest time to do this, especially with my utility of choice, 7-zip. Now let's get our emulation running. Start WinUAE as an administrator and load your configuration. Go to CDs and hard drives. As I said before, this video assumes you already have a hard drive set up here with Workbench installed and ready to boot. Here we see my CD32 compact flash card from the last video. So we talked about using a utilities folder and mounting it as a hard drive. To do that, just click Add Directory or Archive. I'm going to name it PC1 and label it Utilities. Then browse to the folder on my PC. And don't forget to uncheck the bootable box. Now, start your emulation to boot into Workbench. The first item I will be installing is a file manager. I could use some help with navigating and copying files and folders, and a file manager is just what we need. I am a fan of directory Opus, aka Dopus. I will be using version 4.12. There are newer versions, but Dopus version 4 is the favorite of myself and many Amiga users, still being very configurable, yet fairly light on resources, and it works on all Amigas. We just need to insert the disk image in WinUAE, press F12, go to floppy drives, let's create a drawer or folder for it. Now you can simply copy the program to your Amiga drive and run it. Right now, Opus is using dependencies from the floppy drive, so we need to copy them to our Amiga system drive, so that Opus will run without the floppy. So go to the floppy's libs directory and copy all the files to the libs directory on your Amiga. If you get a warning about overwriting files, skip them, as it is likely you already have newer versions. It does have a couple of other dependencies that may come in handy, so here they are and where they go. Config Opus from the Modules folder is important since we want to customize directory Opus. And there are some help files in the S directory. We just need to copy these to the Opus folder we made. And this Opus RT, which is in the C folder. It's odd that this version of Opus does not include an installer, but it's pretty easy to copy these files. Once those files are copied, quit Opus, press F12 and eject the disk. Now run Opus again to confirm everything is good. Now we can see our drives are wrong, so let's fix that. Hold down the right mouse button and go up and select Configure from the menu. Click the Drives button and we can change the drives to the ones we have. You can name them whatever you want. This is only the label for the button. So you can see how configurable Opus is. Pretty cool. I remember spending hours customizing Opus in the early 90s, adding buttons, changing colors, having it run scripts. One of the most useful tricks in directory Opus is the add icon function. Not every file or folder has an icon file, and when they don't, they are hidden from the default view in Workbench. With Opus, it's simple. Just select a file or folder you need an icon for, and you can select multiples, by the way. Now we don't see the Add Icon button, but this Icon Info button has a little page marker on its corner. In Opus, this means that there's a second function here. While your mouse is over the button, and instead of left-clicking, hold down the right mouse button and you can see our Add Icon function hidden underneath. Release the right mouse button, and the function is executed. Now, two essential programs that we need are the archive executable LHA and an executable called installer, which many programs use to install themselves. And since we now have a drive full of our utilities and Opus to help us, it is extremely simple to copy them to the C directory of our Workbench drive. Now that we have a more powerful and utilitarian Amiga, we can proceed to installing other software. WHDLoad is special software that allows any Amiga program to potentially run on any Amiga platform. Usually we are talking about old Amiga floppy games and demos running on newer and faster machines with hard drives. To get these to run, historically, we've had to depend on kickstart switchers, disabling RAM and accelerators, and loading off old floppy disks. WHDLoad works by completely taking over the Amiga. It loads the correct ROM, sets the correct RAM and graphics architecture, emulates a floppy, etc., so that the game or demo thinks it is running on the type of machine that it was originally designed for. Of course, this is not useful for trying to run newer and larger games on old Amigas, but it's a boon for those using AGA and accelerated Amigas with enough memory and speed to run pretty much every game and demo in the Amiga collection. WHDLoad has some requirements that I have put up on the screen. Obviously the WHD program itself from WHDLoad.de, SKIC346 from Aminet.net, Kickstart images from your collection or in a package available for purchase from Amiga Forever. WHDLoad also requires install packages for each game or demo in order to invoke WHDLoad to step in and run the game. You can get the files necessary to do this to your existing games and patch them yourself, or find already patched versions. However, it is beyond the scope of this video. I assume you have access to a library of patched games, and no, I cannot tell you where to get them. Any comments to this video asking will be removed. Regardless, the list of patches available is huge. Chances are all of your favorite Amiga games have a patch already. Visit the WHDLoad site for more details. So the reason I demonstrated installing some utilities in the previous step is because they will be a huge help in installing WHDLoad. So I suggest that you review the previous segment of this video if you think you might be missing something. First thing to do is download WHDLoad. It's available free on the site. Like many other Amiga software, it is archived in .lha format. To extract it, you can use a Windows utility like I showed you, or now that we have installed Directory Opus and other utilities on the Amiga, we can do it on our emulation. But I'm going to do it the fast way and use 7-zip on my PC. I don't need all the installation files and docs on the Amiga anyway, so I'm just going to extract it to the Utilities folder, which as you remember is accessible as a drive on our Amiga. It looks like it has a folder within a folder, so I'm going to have to do something else here. There we go. So now we need to download a package of SKIC relocation files. This can be found on Aminet by searching for SKIC. Just download this SKIC346 and use 7-zip to extract it. We are only going to select the Kickstarts folder and extract it to the WHDLoad folder we made. It creates a Kickstart folder with the SKIC files in it, and we just need to add Kickstart ROMs. WHDLoad is free, but it needs copies of Amiga Kickstart images. According to the WHDLoad website, it needs 5 of them. Go back to the WHDLoad website, click Docs at the top, select your language, and click Requirements. Here is a nice chart of the ROMs required, which includes the matching Amiga Forever file names. As mentioned in my previous video, Amiga Forever is the easiest source of all classic versions of Amiga OS, and it also includes what we need as far as Amiga ROM images. Assuming you are using Amiga Forever, by default the ROM images are located in C, or whatever your Windows OS drive is, Users, Public, Public Documents, Amiga Files, Shared, ROM. Copy the listed files to that new WHDLoad Kickstarts folder that was made by 7-Zip. And rename them as indicated. Now we can start or resume our Win UAE emulation and copy some things over. Take the Kickstarts folder and copy it into our System Disks Devs folder. I prefer to copy the rest of the files to the RAM disk for running the installation. Now we just run the installation through Workbench. I usually just accept all the default install locations. Okay, WHDLoad is now installed and ready to go. We just need some games. I have a few PD games here, so we'll map another drive to copy them over. Now when you start a game, keep an eye on what it says here. The hotkey allows you to quit back to Workbench. And FYI, if it says print screen, that is the numpad star key when using Win UAE. Other than copying more games and other fun stuff to our Amiga, we are done. I hope this helps some people create their ultimate Amiga build. Whether you are just using Win UAE or have the actual hardware, you can now enjoy some original Amiga software. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.